All right, welcome back, everyone. This is SAT Reading Crash Course Day 2, Part 2. We're just coming back from a little break. And before we go on to the next passage, I want to work on questions 18 and 19 from that first passage we were working on, which requires some graph analysis. So let's work on those together. Irene, go ahead and read question number 18 for me, please.
Best summarizes the information presented in the graph.
Yeah, which statement best summarizes the information presented in the graph? The graph above right here. There we go. Now, before we answer this question, or even look at the answer choices, I want to do some graph analysis. And I teach this method in my math crash course. I also teach it in my writing and language crash course. It's the exact same method I use across the board for all the sections of the SAT. And as I say, start with the title of a graph, then the y-axis going up and down, identify it, see what it's labeled as, and then the x-axis going left and right, see how that's labeled, and then look for a key if there's a key, or any additional information around the graph, and then lastly look at the data. That is, lastly look at the bars or the dots or the lines on the chart. Lastly, okay? Most students, when they do graph analysis, they start looking at like the bars and lines immediately, but don't even know what they're looking at. So let's start with the title, and then lastly look at the data. Irene, go ahead and read the title of this chart for me, please.
The following graph from a 2011 report from the International Data Corporation projects 10 in digital information use to 2015.
Yep.
E equals S2.
Yep. Okay, good. And then the title right above it, you see it right here?
Digital information created and shared 2005 to 2015.
Yeah, global digital information created shared. So it's the amount of information that appears to be what the graph is about. Go ahead and read the y-axis going up and down, please.
Digital information created and shared zettabytes.
Yeah, in zettabytes, which I'm guessing is a large amount of information. And then the x-axis going left and right.
Note, 1 zettabyte is 1 trillion gigabytes.
Yeah, that's like an extra sort of additional information. That's not what the x-axis is about, right? The x-axis going left and right. What's the x-axis about?
Oh, the years?
The years. Yeah, years going from 2005 to 2015. And then, yes, you're right. 1 zettabyte is 1 trillion gigabytes, that's a lot in itself. So zettabyte, lots of zettabytes. Well, that's just a lot. Okay. Now, lastly, let's look at the data. Do you see any trends or any conclusions we can draw from this graph?
Like the information?
Yeah, what about the... Yeah. You're cutting out just a little bit, so I'm not quite sure what you said. Do you see any trends? When I say trend, like, basically, is the information going in a certain direction?
It gets bigger.
It's getting bigger, yeah.
It grows, I guess.
It's growing, right? Absolutely, it's growing a lot, right? In math terms, we would describe this as exponential growth, where it's like a big curve, right? It's not linear growth. Linear growth would be a line. This is a big curve, and so like we can assume the next year is going to be even higher. Next year is going to be even higher. It's accelerating in its growth. Yes. Good. So that's definitely the trend of the conclusion. It's accelerating a lot. Okay, good. All right, now let's look at the answer choices and see if we can confirm, based on the evidence in the graph, we can support the correct answer choice or eliminate incorrect answer choices. Go ahead and read answer choice A, please.
Far more people around the world own computers and cell phones today than in 2005.
Okay, does that summarize the information presented in the graph? That far more people around the world own computers and cell phones today than in 2005. Do you see any evidence to support that?
It's true.
It's a true statement. It's a true statement. The question is, Which statement best summarizes the information presented in the graph? Does that summarize the information presented in the graph? That more people own cell phones today than in 2005. It's a very specific question. Does that summarize? Do you see any evidence for that in the graph? That more people today own cell phones than in 2005? I don't see any. I don't see anything about cell phones. Nothing. Now here, this is where it's tricky, and this goes into the rules for reading, right? You don't have to bring in your outside opinion or what you think might be reasonable, even though it's a reasonable statement. It just doesn't directly address the question, and there's no evidence to support it here in this graph. It doesn't summarize the graph. It has nothing to do with the number of cell phones that people own. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. And so, again, you got to think real clearly about directly addressing the question. If you can do that here, you're going to nail this one. There's just nothing about the number of computers and cell phones. Just nothing about it. So, A's gone. Go and read number B, please.
The number of people sharing digital information has more than tripled since 2005.
Okay. Does that summarize the information presented in the graph that the number of people sharing digital information has more than tripled since 2005? The number of people sharing digital information has tripled since 2005. You see any evidence to support that or eliminate that?
Stan was asking. I don't know.
I think this answer choice is tempting because we're definitely about an increase. Do you see anything in the graph about the number of people sharing digital information? The number of people?
No.
No. There's no information about the number of people or the number of cell phones. No, none of that. What is this about? It's not the number of people or the number of cell phones. What's this graph about?
Information.
Yeah, the amount of information. Absolutely. Blaze! Can you hear me, Blaze?
Yep.
Welcome, buddy. Irene is probably so relieved. We had a small class today, and Irene has gotten all of my attention today, and now she's off the hook a little bit more. Welcome, Blaze.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. She's done very well, but there's a lot of pressure to handle. We were talking at the beginning of the session. The pressure. She's the oldest in her family. It's a lot of pressure to handle too. Okay, so, but well done, Irene. Let's finish this question. I think you're on the right track now, Irene. There's nothing about the number of people, right? Irene, in this graph, nothing about it. So yes. I would eliminate that answer choice. I'm going to read answer choice C.
The volume of digital information created and shared has increased tremendously in recent years.
Okay, does that summarize the information in the graph? That the volume of digital information created and shared has increased tremendously in recent years?
Yes.
Do you see anything here about the amount of digital information created and shared?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It says it.
It says it at the top. It says it on the side. And then it's got the information about how much it's increased over recent years. That's looking pretty good.
Yes.
Right? I mean, there's just a ton of direct evidence for that. And do you see the difference there? Even though like A and B sound kind of good, there's just no evidence for the number of computers and cell phones. It's just not in the chart. The number of people sharing, this is not in the chart. C looks pretty good. Let's leave it. Go ahead and read D for me, please.
The amount of digital information created and shared is likely to be almost 8 zettabytes in 2015.
The amount of digital information created and shared is likely to be almost 8 zettabytes in 2015. Does that summarize the information presented in the graph?
It's not like the main idea, I don't think.
No, and you just nailed it right there. Right? It's a true statement. It is almost 8 zettabytes in 2015. Does that summarize the information presented in the graph?
Yes.
Well, I don't think so.
No.
It doesn't summarize it. I mean, it's a true statement, but it doesn't summarize the information presented in the graph. Right? Answer choice C, compare that to answer choice C. That's a much better summary of the information. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. It's just D is not the main idea. It's a point, and it's a true statement, but it doesn't. It's not a summary. And as we see the importance again of directly addressing the question here, which summarizes the information presented in the graph. And that's definitely answer choice C. And D is true. It's so tempting, but it doesn't summarize it. Question 19. Blaze, and Irene, you're off the hook here. Do you see my screencast, Blaze?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so we're doing. Were you able to get to any of the homework by any chance?
Yeah, I got the homework.
Okay,
done.
Good. So we're literally just going over the passages and going over some questions here.
Right.
And I just wanted to discuss some of these and make sure you're on the right track. Go to read question 19 for me, please.
According to the graph, which statement is true about the amount of digital information projected to be created and shared globally in 2012?
Ooh, okay. Let's take a look real quick at the amount of information projected to be shared in 2012. What can we say about that?
I'd say 2.5.
2.5
zettabytes.
Zettabytes, yeah, right. That sounds pretty good. Okay, and then let's just test the answer choices. So go ahead and read answer choice A. See which is a true statement.
Growth in digital information and sharing was projected to be wildly out of proportion to growth in 2011 and 2013.
Okay.
Estimated.
So was growth in digital information creation and sharing projected to be wildly out of proportion to growth in 2011 and 2013?
I wouldn't say so.
No, like that's very much in. Here's 2012, and it's like very much in line.
Yeah, 2015 is 2014 and 15 are the ones.
Yeah, although I wouldn't say those are out of proportion. I mean, they're increasing. Are they out of proportion? I mean, wildly out of proportion? I wouldn't say wildly out of proportion. You know. Yeah, answer choice A is no bueno. Go ahead and read answer choice B.
The amount of digital information created and shared was projected to begin a new upward trend.
Okay. Was the amount of digital information created and shared projected to begin a new upward trend?
I would say so, but the word new kind of puts me off a bit.
Is this a new upward trend in 2012?
No, it's still going up.
No,
it's going upwards before then.
Yeah, it's an old trend going all the way back. I mean, from 2005. So not only, the word new and begin. I mean, it's just not beginning there, and it's not a new trend. So I don't like this. I don't like this choice B. Go ahead and read C.
The amount of digital information created and shared was projected to peak.
Okay, let's go back to the chart. Was the amount of digital information created and shared projected to peak in 2012?
Hang on, I don't quite know what they mean by peak.
Well, think about it for just. I'll bet you can figure it out. What's a peak?
Oh wait, it'll mean like it'll hit that. That's the highest.
The highest point, right? The peak of a mountain, right, is the tippy top of the mountain.
Yeah.
So is the amount of digital information created shared projected to peak in 2012?
No.
I mean, it's just nuts, right? I mean, because the next year it goes higher, and all the years after are higher. So that's just not looking very good. I hope answer choice D makes some sense. Go ahead and read D for me, please.
The amount of digital information created and shared was projected to pass 2 zettabytes for the first time.
Okay, was the amount of digital information created and shared projected to pass 2 zettabytes for the first time in 2012?
Yes.
Because here's the 2 zettabyte line. For the first time it passed that is in 2012, which is right here. A little bit tricky because they don't give you the 2012 year, by the way. You
have to find it manually.
You got to find it manually. I like that. Yes, you do. But that's not too complicated. And yes, there's evidence for it and just no evidence for the others. So we can confirm it as answer choice D. Irene, did that make some sense?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Good. Okay. Good. Let's go to the next passage. And Irene read the last one during the part 1 of the session. So, Blaze, I'm going to ask you to read this one for us. I want to discuss some of the ideas here and some of the vocab. I think this one's really pretty straightforward. Not a whole lot complicated ideas here, but I'm going to read this one quickly and get to as many of the questions as we can. So let's jump right into it. Go ahead and read, including the introduction, please, Blaze, says this passage is adapted.
So this passage is adapted from Tina Hesman Say, Lessons from the Torpid, copyright 2012 by Society for Science and the Public.
Do you know what torpid means, Blaze?
It's like in a state of hibernation or lethargic.
Yeah, lethargic or state of hibernation. That's a great word, man. That's a great word. I need to use that more often. Just feeling torpid today. All right, go ahead and read that first paragraph, please.
So, understanding how hibernators, including ground squirrels, marmots, and bears, survive their long winter's naps may one day offer solutions for problems such as heart disease, osteoporosis, and muscular dystrophy.
Yeah, if you're doing this work on, on your own, I'd probably recommend that you look up those words. Just again, as an opportunity to boost your vocab. I don't want to spend all the time on it right now. On a time test, just be, you don't have to know everything again. You just know, that these are the health problems, right? And then studying these squirrels and other hibernators might help with these health problems. That's all. That's good enough. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
On a time test, you don't need to know everything. Yes, on timed work, yeah, use it as an opportunity to boost your vocab and understanding, but I wouldn't worry about it on a time test. Keep going. The next paragraph, please.
Nearly everything about the way an animal's body works changes when it hibernates, and preparations start weeks or months in advance. First order of business is to fatten up.
Okay.
Fat is where it's at for a hibernator, says Matthew Andrews, a molecular biologist at the University of Minnesota Duluth, who studies 13-lined ground squirrels. You bring your own lunch with you. Packing lunch is necessary because the animals go on the world's strictest diet during the winter, surviving entirely off their white fat. They have their last supper in October. They don't eat again until March, Andrews says. Bigger fat stores mean a greater chance of surviving until spring. If they go in really chunky, nice and roly-poly, that's going to be a good hibernator, he says.
There's not a lot of complex vocab here in this, is there? I mean, other than maybe muscular dystrophy or something like that. This is all making sense? Would you guys agree? Yeah? Irene, any questions so far? No? Okay. Keep going, please, Blaze. Doing great.
Bears also watch their waistlines expand in the months before settling in for the season. The brown bear's cardiologist, Ol Frober, studies pack on the pounds by chewing down on up to 40 kilograms of blueberries a day.
Ooh.
Such gluttony among humans could have severe consequences. Obesity is associated with a greater risk of heart attack and diabetes, among other ailments.
You know what gluttony means, Blaze?
Excessive eating.
Yeah, just excessive eating, right? And then obesity is what?
Overweight.
Yeah, just being overweight. Yep. Okay. Keep going, please.
To see how fattening up affects Scandinavian brown bears, Frobert and his colleagues ventured into the wilds of Sweden following signals given off by radio transmitters or GPS devices on tagged bears. Bears can be dangerous close up. Even hibernating bears can rouse to action quickly, so scientists tracking down bears in the winter use darts to tranquilize the animals from a distance.
Awesome.
Scientists studying the bears in the summer tranquilize them from a helicopter.
Even awesomer. I've thought, reading this passage, every time I read this one, I think, what a cool job that would be, to be a professional bear tranquilizer. That would just be awesome. Shooting bears from a helicopter. All right. And not killing them, right? You don't have any, so there's zero guilt.
Yeah.
None. Boy. All right. That'd be a cool job. Keep going, please. Once a bear.
Once a bear is under the tranquilizer's influence, which takes about 5 minutes, the scientists have 60 minutes max to get the animal from its den, weigh and measure it, draw blood samples, and do minor surgeries to collect fat and other tissues. The bear is returned to its den by minute 61.
Okay.
Precious materials collected during this high-pressure encounter need to be analyzed within 24 hours, so the researchers often test for levels of cholesterol or certain proteins in the blood while working in the snow or at a nearby research station. A pilot sometimes flies samples from field sites to a lab in Denmark in order to meet the deadline, Frobert says. Samples such as bones and arteries that can't be collected from live bears come from bears killed by hunters during the legal hunting season.
Okay.
Recent analyses revealed that the Scandinavian brown bears spend the summer with plasma cholesterol levels considered high for humans. Those values then increase substantially for hibernation. Frobert and his colleagues reported these very, very fat bears with high cholesterol also get zero exercise during hibernation. Lolling about in the den pinches off blood vessels, contributing to sluggish circulation.
What is lolling? What does that mean?
I can't quite describe it. It means just essentially being lazy.
Yeah,
lazing
exactly.
around.
Lazing around, rolling around. Yeah, another good word. Man. Yep.
That cocktail.
And sluggish. Sluggish?
Yeah, sluggish means slow.
Yep. Literally like a slug.
Yeah.
So, slow. Absolutely. Good. Keep going.
That cocktail would not be advisable in humans, Frobert says. It's a recipe for hardened arteries, putting people at risk for heart attacks and strokes.
Okay.
Even healthy young adult humans can develop fatty streaks in their arteries that make the blood vessels less flexible, but the bears don't build up such artery-hardening streaks. Our bears, they had nothing, Frobert says. It's not yet clear how the bears keep their arteries flexible, but Frobert hopes to find some protective molecule that could stave off hardened arteries in humans as well.
Stave. What does that mean? To stave off.
Sort of defend against?
Yep, defend against. Perfect. To stave off hardened arteries in humans as well. Did you have to look that one up, or you knew that one?
I knew that.
Okay, good. And then there's a little chart. On the part one of the session today, I told Irene, never worry about looking at the charts until after they ask you a question about the chart. Don't even worry about them. Just ignore them. So I'm not even going to worry about that. We will come back to it then. Okay. Now, I like this passage a lot. It's a really easy read, and this highlights a couple things. You're going to see dramatic differences in the difficulty level of the passages. Compare this passage to the first passage on this practice test, right? The what's her name?
Emma?
Jane Austen. Emma. Yeah. Well, it's not the most difficult. I've seen much more difficult ones, and we're going to get to some of those. But the level of the vocab in that passage, it's tricky. And this one's just like, it's a breeze. After this one, for homework, you're going to be doing a passage from written by Andrew Carnegie. That's like from the 1800s, and you're going to see some much more complex vocab there. So just be aware that the difficulty level varies dramatically. I coach some students to always start with the easiest passages. And if they have time, work their way to the harder and harder passages. It makes sense, right? That if you're going to skip any of the passages or just not get to answer the questions, it makes sense to not answer the questions from the really tricky passage, right, or passages, as opposed to spending all your time on the really tricky passages and then never getting to the really easy ones at the end of the test. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I think this highlights this. I like this passage a lot, but some of the questions are tricky, and as long as we directly address the question and we focus on evidence in the text, we're going to be good. Blaze, go ahead and read question number 20 for me, please.
The passage is written from the perspective of someone who is
actively
involved.
Go ahead.
Actively involved in conducting hibernator research.
Let's stop. Let's look for evidence to support or eliminate that answer choice. Is this passage written from the perspective of someone who is actively involved in conducting hibernator research?
I don't think it is.
Can we find any evidence for it?
Well, okay, I can't see anything in the passage.
Yeah, that's not good.
What about the Society for Science and the Public?
I don't know. Is that evidence that is written from the perspective of someone who is actively involved in hibernator research?
No.
I don't see any evidence for it. It sounds good,
okay.
but I don't see any evidence for it.
Yeah.
Can we eliminate it? You come from eliminating?
I think. Yeah, we can.
There's zero evidence for it. Get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not looking good. Trans choice B.
A participant in a recent debate in the field of cardiology.
Okay, is this written from the perspective of a participant in a recent debate in the field of cardiology?
I wouldn't say so. There's no evidence of that.
Yeah, there's no evidence for that. And what debate? What debate would that be? There's nothing. Just nothing for that.
Yeah.
Irene, does that make sense why we can eliminate those two?
Yeah.
Yeah. Irene?
Yes.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's funny because A is so tempting and A sounds so good and so many kids are going to choose A. And it's possible when I did this test the first time I chose A. It's very possible. It may have happened. I can neither confirm nor deny. I honestly don't recall, but I think I probably did choose A because it sounds so good. The only problem with it is there's no evidence for it. None, and that's a problem. Go to read answer choice C.
Knowledgeable about advances in hibernator research.
Okay, Blaze. Is this passage written from the perspective of someone who is knowledgeable about advances in hibernator research?
I wouldn't. Well, I'd say there is evidence for that.
What's your evidence for that?
They're talking about the once a bear. They're talking about how the scientists will collect some blood samples from the bear, and it's not. No one is actually telling this person
Mm-hmm.
what they do.
Yeah.
The person who's writing this is just telling you.
Narrating.
Yeah, they're narrating.
Yeah. So, C looks good?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, really, like, if we're looking for evidence in this, that this is written from the perspective of someone who's knowledgeable about advances in hibernator research, I would say the evidence is the whole passage, right? Like, I can't deny, like, this person is knowledgeable about hibernator research. I'm looking at every paragraph. And I can't say that for A. I don't know if they're actively involved in conducting it, but I know they're knowledgeable about it. The whole thing is evidence for it. Let's try D.
An advocate for wildlife preservation. I don't think that's it.
I just don't see any evidence for it.
Mm-hmm.
None. And it may be true. It may be reasonable. But there's no evidence for it. None. So it's C. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I want you to do the next two, just because Irene lifted such a heavy load at the first part of the class. Let's do 21 and 22 together, and then we'll start mixing it up again. Go ahead and read 21 for me, please, Blaze.
It is reasonable to conclude that the main goal of the scientists conducting the research described in the passage is to...
Okay, let's stop for just a minute. Before we read the answer choices, there's a couple ways we could approach this question. We could try to figure out, based on our reading, what we think the main goal of conducting the research was, and then see what answer choice matches for 21. Or we could read the evidence lines for 22, because 22 is one of those 2-for-1 questions, right? Where the answer to 21 is going to be somewhere in the answer choices for 22. Does that make sense, Blaze?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think you could tell me what the main goal of the scientists conducting the research in the passage, what the main goal of that research was?
Well, I'd say it's probably answer choice D from question 21, saying exploring possible ways to prevent human diseases.
What's your evidence for that?
The first 5 lines.
Yeah, go ahead and read those lines for me, please. So what you're doing here, you're reading the lines, the answer choice A from 22, right?
Oh, I guess I am.
Yeah, okay. Oh, maybe you didn't realize. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Well, read those first lines.
So, understanding how hibernators, including ground squirrels, marmots, and bears, survive their long winter's naps may one day offer solutions for problems such as heart disease, osteoporosis, and muscular dystrophy.
Yeah.
I'd say that's a lot of support.
That's a lot of support right there for answer choice D for 21.
Yeah, and then answer choice A for 22.
Yeah. Can we eliminate the incorrect answer choices here for 21? Let's read through them real quick. Go ahead and read A for 21.
Learn how the hibernation patterns of bears and squirrels differ.
Is that the main goal of the scientists conducting the research?
No.
No, that's awful. It's just no. It's just nope. Go and read answer choice B.
Determine the role that fat plays in hibernation.
Is that the main goal of scientists conducting research? No, it's not.
It's part of the passage, but it's not the main goal.
It's part, but it's not the main goal. It's just not, and we know what role fat plays in hibernation, right? So there's store of energy when there's no discussion. That's pretty well established, right? And it's just not the main goal of the research.
Yeah.
I may or may not have chosen answer choice B the first time I took this test. I'm just saying.
Illustrate the important health benefits of exercise for humans.
Oh gosh.
They barely talked about humans.
No. It's just the main point is not the importance of exercise. No. It's just not. Yeah, it is answer choice D.
Which means for question 22,
we see the answer, right? And that's one of the nice things. If you can find the answer on your own, right? If you can read 21 and be like, what's the evidence of the main goal? And you're like, oh, okay, 1 through 5 looks pretty good. You can be very confident in your answer for 21, and then you don't even have to read the lines for 22. You already know. It's got to be A, which it is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you read 21 and were uncertain about it, and I think we worked on one of those questions today, Irene, right, where we didn't know the answer to the first in the 2-for-1 questions. And so we went to the lines and found the end. And I think the correct answer really jumped out at us when we actually read the lines. You don't have to go back and read the whole passages. The evidence is going to be somewhere in those 4 sets of lines. So anyway, either of those strategies works, and you're going to use a different approach depending on your understanding of the passage or just whether or not you can answer the question right off the bat. Okay? Any questions about that?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Irene, I want you to read question 23 for me, please.
What main effect do the quotations by Andrews in lines 10 through 18 have on the tone of the passage?
Yeah, the tone of the passage. Let's talk about that term first. What does tone mean, Irene?
Like, I feel like I know, but I don't.
Do you play an instrument by any chance?
No.
No? Blaze, do you have any idea what tone means? I know you've heard it before.
Tone would be like sort of the way it's being like played or said.
Yeah, the way it sounds. The way it sounds. That's all. The way it sounds. Okay? So the quotations by Andrews in lines 10 through 18 have what effect on the tone of the passage is the question. So let's read those lines, 10 through 18. Let's see how those quotations affect how the passage sounds. Can you read this for me, Irene, please?
Yes. That is where it's at for the hibernator, says Matthew Andrews, a molecular biologist at the University of Minnesota who has studied 13-lined ground squirrels. You bring your own lunch with you. Packing lunch is necessary because the animals go on the world's strictest diet during winter, surviving entirely off their white fat. They have their last supper in October. They don't eat again until March, Andrew says.
Okay, great. All right, so let's answer the question now. Okay, so what effect do those quotations have on the tone of the passage? Go ahead and read answer choice A for me, please, Irene.
They create a bleak tone, focusing on the difficulties hibernators face during the winter.
Okay, do those quotations create a bleak tone, focusing on the difficulties hibernators face during the winter? You know what bleak means? Irene?
Bare?
Yeah, bare or like...
Something that's not bare.
Like kind of depressing here. In this context, bleak would be like despairing. Do they create a bleak tone? His quotations of despair or depression. What are your thoughts, Irene?
Is it saying it's sad?
Yeah, that's even better, right? Yeah, do those quotations create a sad tone? They make it sound sad.
Not really.
No, kind of like the opposite of that, right? It's kind of like fat is where it's at. It's like, it's kind of joking almost.
Yeah.
Right? It's not bleak. And here we don't even have to worry about the second half of answer choice A, right? Once you read the first part, they create a bleak tone. Well, it doesn't create a bleak tone. So even if the second half is true, which the second half is true, it does focus on the difficulties hibernators face. But even if if the first half is not correct, we don't have to worry about it. Half right is 100% wrong. So it's not answer choice A. Go to read answer choice B, please.
They create a conversational.
Yeah, conversational.
Oh, conversational. They create a conversational tone relating scientific information in everyday language.
Okay, do those quotations create a conversational tone relating scientific ideas in everyday language?
It is conversational.
It is conversational. Does it create a conversational tone? Does it make it sound conversational?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Does that relate to the second part here? Does it relate scientific information in everyday language?
Yes. Well.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I think so.
Absolutely.
Because they say says Matthew. Andrew says like a.
Yeah, and so like you bring your own lunch with you. He's talking about them packing on the fat during hibernation or before hibernation. So absolutely, B looks good. Try answer choice C.
They create an ominous tone, foreshadowing the dire results of Andrew's research.
Do you know what ominous means?
No.
Look it up real quick.
Threatening?
Yeah, that's a good synonym. Do they create a threatening tone, like a dark tone? Is that a dark, threatening tone? Ominous? Does it sound dark and threatening?
Paragraph isn't really dark.
No. It's not. It's like, again, it's got like a joking sort of air to it.
Yeah.
No, it's not. No, it's not ominous. Again, you got to know what these words mean here. But if you know what ominous means, definitely not. What about answer choice D? Read that for me.
They create an absurd tone, using images of animals acting as if they were human.
Interesting. Do those quotations by Andrews create an absurd tone? You know what absurd means?
Like crazy.
Crazy, yeah, like nonsense. Yeah.
Nonsense.
Do they create a crazy, nonsensical tone?
No, it's not that crazy. It's just
No.
No,
and it's tempting here because like the second half, it does use images of animals acting as if they're human. It does that, right? It talks about them packing a lunch, but it's not crazy. I mean, the tone isn't crazy, right?
It's more conversational.
It's much more conversational. Answer choice B is a much better answer choice than D. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Now, again, don't be tempted when you just focus on just half of an answer choice. Again, if you just focus on the second half of D, it sounds good. Using images of animals acting as if they're human. It does that. But it just doesn't create an absurd tone, so we can eliminate D. Any questions about that?
No.
Okay, good. You got to read the whole answer choice, test the whole thing. One word can throw off an answer choice. Question 24, Blaze. Go ahead and read that for me, please, buddy. You with us, Blaze?
As used in line 19, stores most nearly means...
Okay, now do you remember the method we used on the first day here, where we plug this into the sentence?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, good. So I want you to reread the sentence where line 19 is at, but we're going to plug in preservatives first in place of stores.
All right. So where should I start?
Actually, I don't. What one line is it? Using line 19. So just read the sentence.
Bigger fat preservatives mean a greater chance of surviving until spring.
How does that sound?
I don't think that sounds very good.
No, that doesn't quite sound right. Fat preservatives. No, that's not right. I don't like that. Plug in reserves.
Bigger fat reserves mean a greater chance of surviving until spring.
How does that sound?
That sounds good.
That sounds good. Yeah, that sounds good. Let's keep it. Try answer choice C. I love answer choice C so much. Stacks.
Bigger fat stacks mean a greater chance of surviving until spring.
I know that's not like an acceptable term. I know it's not right, but I love fat stacks. I love it. That needs to be a thing. Fat stacks. Sadly, we have to eliminate. I'm so sad about it. We have to eliminate answer choice C. Such a wonderful image.
Bigger fat shelters mean a greater chance of surviving until spring.
How about that one?
Don't think fat shelters.
No, fat shelter is good too. No, sadly. It is at B. B makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes those are really easy. Notice, by the way, like it's stores. Yeah. It's just plug it in. Just use that method. 25. Ooh, it's a tricky one. Irene, go to 25 for me, please.
Based on the passage, what is Frobert's hypothesis regarding why bears' arteries do not harden during hibernation?
Yeah, what is Frobert's hypothesis? What's a hypothesis, Irene? Do you know what that is?
Before you do an experiment, you can have a hypothesis.
Yeah. So what is it? You're right.
You might guess what could happen.
Exactly. You're going to guess what happens. You're going to make a prediction. about what's happening. Absolutely. Okay, good. So Frober has some hypothesis regarding why bears' arteries do not harden during hibernation. Do you remember from reading the passage, Irene, what his hypothesis is?
I don't recall.
Yeah. Don't worry about it because it's a 2-for-1 question. Okay? So we know that the answer to question 25 is somewhere in the lines of 26. Right? So let's read the answer choices. We'll read the lines from the answer choice in 26. So we'll start with 19 through 20, and we're going to look for Frober's hypothesis as to why bears' arteries don't harden during hibernation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so let's start with lines 19 through 20.
Bigger fat stores mean a greater chance of surviving until spring.
Okay, do we see anything there about Frober's hypothesis as to why bears' arteries don't harden during hibernation?
No.
No, not even close. That's easy to eliminate. Not even close. That's gone. Answer choice B, lines 24 through 27.
The brown bear's cardiologist Ole Frober studies pack on the pounds by chowing down on up to 40 kilograms of blueberries a day.
Okay, do we see anything there about Frober's hypothesis as to why bears' arteries don't harden
No.
during hibernation? No. At least we're talking about Frober here at some point, which is good, but I don't see there's nothing about his hypothesis about why their arteries don't harden. That's no good. Easy to eliminate, right? I mean, like, don't overthink this. And don't look for something that's not there. There's just no evidence for his hypothesis. Just nothing about that. Not even close. Try answer choice C. That's lines 69 through 72.
Even healthy young adult humans can develop fatty streaks in their arteries that make the blood vessels less flexible. But the bears don't build up such artery hardening streaks.
Okay. What about in those lines? Do we see anything about Frober's hypothesis as to why bears' arteries don't harden during hibernation?
Well, it's talking about their arteries hardening.
It is. This is on topic, which is good. It's a good sign. Do we see any evidence about his hypothesis, his educated guess, as to why those arteries don't harden?
He doesn't put a personal opinion there.
I don't see it. Yeah, I see no personal opinion. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't see it there. I don't. All right. Let's, but I feel like we're on the right track. Let's read the lines to 73 through 76, which is close to that.
Frober says it's not yet clear how the bears keep their arteries flexible, but Frober, unproductive molecule that could stave off hardened arteries in humans as well.
Okay. Do we see anything there about Frobert's hypothesis as to why bears' arteries don't harden during hibernation?
It says it's not clear.
It's not clear, but does it say anything about
his... He hopes to find...
He hopes to find what?
Active molecule that could, like... Does that mean defend?
Yeah.
Stave?
Yeah, absolutely.
That could, like, stave off hardened arteries in humans as well.
Yeah, so does that say anything about his hypothesis?
Yes.
Absolutely. What's his hypothesis? What is it? You're right.
He's comparing it to humans.
Yeah, but what's his guess as to what's keeping their arteries flexible? What's keeping their arteries from hardening? What does he think it is?
A protective molecule.
A protective molecule. Absolutely. Right? Now here, like, Frober doesn't say, here's my hypothesis, everybody. Listen carefully. Right? He doesn't it's indirect, but we see evidence for it nonetheless. Do you see that? Do you see that? Evidence for his hypothesis?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And compare that to the others, where it's not, C is at least kind of on top. There's no evidence for a hypothesis. We have it here. So I feel really good about answer choice D. for 26, and you should too. Let's go back to 25 now. Okay? Based on the passage, what is Frobert's hypothesis regarding why bears' arteries do not harden during hibernation? Go ahead and read the answer choices, please.
Do you want me to read them?
Yeah, read answer choice A, please. Yep, 25.
Okay. A. The bear's increased plasma cholesterol causes the arteries to be more flexible.
Is that Frobert's hypothesis regarding why bears' arteries do not harden during hibernation? No, it's not. What about B?
Sluggish circulation of blood vessels rather than hardening the arteries.
Is that Frobert's hypothesis regarding why bears' arteries do not harden? I'm sorry? No. No. No way. No, we know what it is, right? And we just read it. That's not it. Try C.
Bears exercise in short, infrequent bursts during hibernation, which staves off hardened arteries.
Is that Frobert's hypothesis why bears' arteries do not harden?
No.
I don't think so.
No, because
What
says molecules.
Yeah, he said it was a molecule, right? C's not looking good. Go ahead and read the answer as D. It's just looking good.
Bears possess a molecule that protects against hardened arteries.
Well, there you go. Right? There you go. And by the way, that's tough to do if you're just starting, if you're just doing 25 and like trying to figure it out. It's not super obvious. But when you go through the answer choices for 26, the only thing that addresses his hypothesis is answer choice D, and then there's the answer for 25 right there as well. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, good. Blaze, that makes sense? You good?
Yep.
Okay, great. Let's go ahead and do 27 for me. I want to finish up this passage. We'll do 27 and 28. Go ahead and read 27, please.
What information is discussed in paragraph 10, lines 58 through 68, is represented by this graph?
What information discussed in paragraph 10? Okay, so I guess we could read the whole paragraph, but let's just read the lines and just test each set of lines in the answer choices. Okay? So let's... in fact, before we do that, let's do some graph analysis. I take that back. Let's do graph analysis. So we've got the graph here. So graph analysis, we do this approach the same way in the writing and language section, Blaze, as we do in the math section. Start with the title, then the y-axis going up and down, the x-axis going left and right. Look for a key if there is one, and then lastly, look at the data. So go ahead and read the title for me, please.
Total plasma cholesterol in 7 bears.
Okay. The y-axis going up and down.
That's milligrams slash deciliter.
Yeah, it's milligrams per deciliter.
Oh, okay.
Which is like 10 liters, I think. And then the x-axis going left and right.
So one position is when they're hibernating, and the other end is when they're active.
Yeah. And then any other information anywhere there on the chart?
Near the bottom is the maximum desirable level for humans.
Yeah, okay. All right. And then any trends or conclusions. Now we can look at the data now. Any trends or conclusions that we see here?
Most of the bears are going downwards.
Almost all of them.
Except for one.
Except for one. Right, that stayed consistent. Interesting. Okay, well, good. Now let's test the lines. So we got to see which information discussed in that paragraph is represented in the graph. Okay, so read lines 58 through 62, please.
All right.
See if that's represented in the graph.
Recent analyses revealed that the Scandinavian brown bears spend the summer with plasma cholesterol levels considered high for humans. Those values then increase substantially for hibernation.
Okay.
Robert and his colleagues...
Oh, I'm sorry. No, yeah, sorry, you needed that.
Yes, substantially for hibernation, Robert and his colleagues reported.
Okay, good. Sorry to cut you off a little bit earlier there. Okay, is that information, I guess the question is that represented in the graph?
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. High for humans. They increase for hibernation. Well, it looks pretty good. It's considered high for humans. It increases for hibernation. That looks pretty good. Let's keep it. Try answer choice B. That is line 62 through 64.
Through 64. Hang on. Okay. So these very, very fat bears with high cholesterol can also get 0 exercise during hibernation.
Okay. Is that
Lolling
I think that's
about.
it, right?
Oh, wait, is that it?
I think that's it. Yeah, 62 through 64. So is that represented in the graph?
Yeah. Well, no. No, wait. No, that isn't.
No, right? Why not?
No,
I agree.
It's not talking about their exercise.
No, not the exercise
or their
levels.
lack thereof.
Yeah, not at all. It's just not. No, it's not represented. That's just not represented in the graph. So I would eliminate B. What about C? That's lines 64 through 65.
64 through 65. These. Oh, wait. Oh, wait.
Lolling.
1, 2. Oh, lolling about in the den pinches off blood vessels, contributing to sluggish circulation.
Okay, is that represented in the graph?
No.
No, this is so easy. This is not even close. Trans choice D.
67. It's a recipe?
Yep.
Okay. It's a recipe for hardened arteries, putting people at risk for heart attacks and strokes.
Is that information represented in the graph?
No.
No, it's not.
Whatsoever.
It's a choice. See, yeah, great. That's pretty easy.
Yeah.
All right. Lastly, let's wrap it up here with question 28. Irene, go ahead and read that question, please.
Which statement about the effect of hibernation on the 7 bears is best supported by the graph?
Okay. Let's read the answer choice and test them. Go ahead and read A for me, please.
Only one not exercise an appreciable change in its total plasma cholesterol level.
Yeah, only one of the bears did not experience an appreciable, which means like significant change. Did only one of the bears not experience an appreciable change, a significant change in its total plasma cholesterol level? Are you looking at the chart?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, how many of the bears experienced an appreciable change, according to this graph?
Are we looking at the dots?
Well, yeah, from hibernation to active would be the change. Would you say most of the bears experienced a change, Irene?
Yes.
Yeah, almost all of them, right? I think we pointed this out earlier, right? Like only one, in fact, didn't see a change. This guy. Right there.
Because he was straight. Okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense? All the others change significantly.
Yes.
Right. So is answer choice A a true statement? Did only one of the bears not experience an appreciable change?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a true statement. That's supported by the graph. That looks good. Let's eliminate the incorrect ones then. Go and read B.
Only one of the bears
Experience.
experienced a significant increase in its total plasma cholesterol level.
Did only one of the bears experience a significant increase in its total plasma cholesterol level?
No.
No, that's just not true. Nope. So, only one didn't experience a decrease. That's not right. Answer choice C.
All of the bears achieved the desirable plasma cholesterol level for humans.
Did all the bears achieve the desirable plasma cholesterol level for humans?
Not all of them.
I don't think any of them did, right? If here's the maximum desirable level, this dotted line right here, going across here, none of them get below it.
It didn't cross it yet.
Yeah, so none of them reach that. And then answer choice. Went ahead a little bit. Answer choice D. Go and read that, please.
The bear with the lowest total plasma cholesterol level is in its active state has the highest total plasma cholesterol level during hibernation?
Okay, the bear with the lowest plasma cholesterol level during its active state had the highest during hibernation. Well, let's see the guy that had the lowest. And that's the guy right here during his active state. Did he have the highest level during hibernation, that bear?
No, he didn't.
No. In fact, he had the lowest during hibernation. So that's just not a true statement. So using evidence from the chart, we can easily eliminate D, and it is indeed answer choice A. Any questions?
No.
No. Is it becoming obvious that if we're thinking about these clearly, directly addressing the question, and focusing on evidence, the right answer choice really jumps out at you, as long as you understand what you're reading, as long as you know the vocab. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. But the name of the game, really, and for most students, is to just continue to boost your reading comprehension. So, when you're doing reading on your own, I strongly encourage you, look up every word you don't know. You've got to boost your reading comprehension, especially the academic level texts. And if you can do that and then approach the questions the way I'm teaching you, guys are going to be in great shape for this test. Okay. For homework, I'm going to just have you guys do the next two passages. We've got a passage from Andrew Carnegie from the 1800s. A lot of vocab in this you're going to have to look up. And then the one after that is a double passage. There's literally two passages you have to read and compare them. I want you to do what you did this last time. Look up all the vocab, answer the questions. We'll discuss everything at the beginning of the next class. And I guess that's it. Any questions, guys?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
Irene, any questions? No? Okay. Awesome. Great job today, guys. And again, Irene, thank you so much for all your hard work, especially in the first half of the class today, and for joining us a little bit later, Blaze. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for
My pleasure.
helping.
It's my pleasure. I really enjoy this. So thank you so much for the opportunity to work with you guys and help you out. All right, well, guys, I'll send the video links out and the homework a little bit later, and I look forward to seeing you next week, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.